Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Whew. Okay, guys. We're rounding the corner here. So now I'm getting to my things that I think work for pretty much anyone, things that I see men and women buying in equal amounts, things that I think would work equally well for men or women as gifts. We're here. So, first category is genre blends. So what I mean by genre blends are books that are not traditionally, like traditional entries in a specific genre. So like it's not just a fantasy, not just a sci-fi, not just a romance, whatever. Things that are kind of blending genres, I think can be pretty friendly for almost anyone because it kind of strips away some of the like gendered associations with those genres. Like for instance, romance, that's traditionally women, sci-fi, that's traditionally men, whatever. It kind of like creates enough of a blend that there's something for everyone and people are more willing to read them. And again, guys, like I feel weird talking so much about gender stereotypes with all of this, but like I'm just going based on experience, and anyway, you probably don't care. I just feel weird about it. Anyway, so genre blends I think can be a great place to go. So, some suggestions. First, I would say Jim Butcher. This is his steampunk, the first in his steampunk series, but he's very well known for his urban fantasy series with Dresden, the Dresden Files, and that's a great series that works very well in audio, by the way. So this is something that I think has a little something for men and women, could probably work for either. You guys know I talk about this series all the time, but the Johannes Cabal, I think there's 5 of them right now. I just think that these are really, really funny. So if you want to give somebody a genuinely funny book that is also playing with genres like fantasy, like steampunk, like mystery, like thriller, I mean, there's a lot happening in these books genre-wise, and so they kind of defy classification. If you had to pick one, probably fantasy, but like there's real play with genre here, and I think that this is just a really underrated series that's just great. Oh, and my favorite in that series is Johannes Cabal, the detective, because I'm a sucker for a mystery, and there's like an airship, so I particularly like this one if you're looking for just one, even though this is the second in the series. This is my favorite. So next I'm going to say the latest book from Andy Weir, Artemis. I just started reading this, but I can already tell I'm really going to like it. It's a new book, so if you're somebody who likes to give people like recent releases, this is a good choice. This is basically like a heist plus sci-fi. And I think it's something that's going to be pretty accessible for a lot of people. And like I said, it's also a bestseller or a recent release, that kind of thing. So Artemis, I think, would be a good choice. If the person you know likes the Dresden Files, they really should be reading the Kate Daniels series because it is also urban fantasy. It's besides like Harry Potter, Narnia, like kind of the classic ones, this is my favorite series. This is so good. It's very sharply written. There's a lot of wit in it. There's a lot of really good, like well-written action happening in it. The magic system is very interesting. The world is really interesting. This is really, really good. Now, this segues into my 2 other recommendations because, and I know people don't like to talk about this is technically a romance series, but men and women read these. Like, this is not, I don't think that this is something who's like romance phobic is going to have a problem with, because yes, there is a central love story and these are romances, like these are romances, but I don't think that it doesn't follow a lot of the kind of stereotypes about romance, so I think people kind of give it a pass. Now, a couple of books that are more typically romance, so that's the caveat that these are probably slightly more female leading than male, but I think, again, are just really good. One is a steampunk series and one is an urban fantasy that I think many people could overlook the fact that it's a romance. Particularly with the Iron Duke series from Meljean Brook, this is a fantastic steampunk series. Yes, it is a romance. There's a central couple. They are getting together. But honestly, I think that this just works as steampunk, and that's why I'm keeping it as a genre blend rather than a romance recommendation. I really enjoy this series a lot. And it's really well written too, that's the other thing. And finally, the one that I think is probably, this is the most romancy of these three genre blends that I'm mentioning. So this one might fall slightly more into something that your mom would be willing to read as opposed to your dad, because this has the most sort of like explicit and frequent sex of the three of them. This is the Psy-Changeling series from Nalini Singh. It's a fantastic series as well. It's a super interesting world. There's a lot of like, the reason why I think that this could work beyond the romance component of it is that it's actually in a lot of ways sort of like a political thriller. It's a political thriller slash paranormal romance. And I think that it is another one that I think is really well written. I think it defies a lot of the stereotypes about romance, and for that reason I'm putting it in the genre blend of something that I think everyone probably could enjoy. Okay, so the next group that is something that I think everyone enjoys, and I saw everyone buying kind of equally, is the only category in here where it's just an author. Because Stephen King. Everybody loves Stephen King. Like, this is sort of a no-brainer if you're trying to buy for somebody who likes bestsellers and likes to sort of like keep up with whatever's being released. Pretty much everyone loves Stephen King. This is his latest, which he co-wrote with his son, called Sleeping Beauties. So like, hey, if you know mom or dad likes Stephen King, get this for them. Like, they'll probably enjoy it. This is something that really does transcend a lot of boundaries and pretty much everyone loves. And then the final group we have to talk about, and guys, I must have talked about like 50 books at this point. There's so many. Oh, future me editing this is going to have such fun. The final category that I want to talk about that I think works for pretty much everyone is mysteries. Pretty much everyone likes a mystery. Now, people like their mysteries wrapped up in different ways, and that's kind of how I'm gonna approach this. You're gonna see a clear bias here because I have the ways that I like my mysteries packaged, and so clearly my taste will reflect that, but mysteries are a great bet. So the first kind of route you can go is classic mysteries, ones that sort of like formed the genre. In that respect, you have like Wilkie Collins, The Moonstone. Where's that? Yeah, right here. I didn't pull that out, but The Moonstone, Wilkie Collins. Woman in White, Wilkie Collins. He's an originator. The other real originator, besides Poe, I guess, is good old Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, complete Sherlock Holmes. This is a great route, especially because there are so many Sherlock Holmes like adaptations in TV and movies these days. Like, get someone the original. A great gift if they've never read it. And you didn't think we would get through an entire video without me mentioning Agatha Christie, did you? Agatha Christie! We just had The Murder on the Orient Express come out. And yeah, it's on top of people's minds right now, and so get the Murder on the Orient Express. Get them, And Then There Were None. Those are probably, I would say probably her two best books and her two most popular books. So those are a great route. If you want more suggestions about Agatha Christie, I will link my Where to Start with Agatha Christie video / my playlist of all my Project Poirot stuff. But yeah, classic mystery stuff. If people like mysteries, they'll probably like these. And then three other slightly less well-known mystery classic writers, but are still known. One is Josephine. This one is Brat Farrar. She's a classic. Ngaio Marsh, who I don't have a book of hers with me right now, but she's another one. And then I love Dorothy Sayers. Her Lord Peter Wimsey mysteries are really, really good. I would specifically recommend from her Gaudy Night, I think is her best book. Gaudy Night, and then Busman's Holiday. Those two I think are awesome, and they, you know, they're in a series, but I think that they work just fine as standalones. So at some point I'm gonna do a whole video on knowing your tropes. I don't know, maybe this has come out after that, I don't know. Anyway, knowing your tropes is very empowering for readers who are into any kind of genre fiction because it helps you pick the kind of books you're gonna like. And for me in mysteries, like one of the ways that I kind of in my mind divide up how those are working are sort of more contemporary. Well, there's a few. I say this. Okay. I should just wait for that video because I have a lot of thoughts. For the purposes of these recommendations, I'm just going to divide this into two areas. One is more contemporary mysteries, which tend to have more forensic aspects happening. And then the other is historical mysteries, like mystery set in a historical setting, that tend to be, there's certainly clues and stuff, but it tends to be a little bit more like deduction based as opposed to like, we found your fingerprints, how did they get there kind of a thing. So let's start with the contemporary. So for contemporary, I mean, like, you can go to just like the standard, you know, kind of like purveyors of this genre. I think of someone like James Paterson, who's, you know, freaking bestseller. People love him. I'm not that into him, but people love James Paterson. Like a Mary Higgins Clark type person, Sue Grafton. Like, if you want to give somebody like a series that they can dive into, you can definitely go that route. So that's one way to go. The contemporary person, like popular like writer of mysteries that I like best is Nora Roberts / J.D. Robb. I highly, highly recommend her In Death series that she writes as J.D. Robb. The first one is Naked in Death, and I just think it's a great series. So that would be, you know, if you're wanting to give someone a series to sink their teeth into, that would be great. She also just writes really good standalone mystery thriller type things. So this is just a copy of one that I have lying around, which is Whiskey Beach. This is a good one. Other single titles from her that I would recommend. Number one that I would recommend is The Obsession. That's my favorite one I've read from her. The Search is good. The Witness, Tribute, Blue Smoke. There's a number of them that are very good, and her standalone thrillers are just great. And then two other kind of like more contemporary series that I would recommend. If the person you're buying for is more of like a cozy-ish mystery type person, the Cat Who books by Lillian Jackson Braun are a very good series of mysteries that are about a newspaper writer and his psychic cats, basically. And it's a lot of fun. It started in the 60s and then continued in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. So that's a good series. And then if the person you're buying for is open to YA, the Natural series from Jennifer Lynn Barnes is one of my favorite little mystery series I've read in a long time. The first one is The Naturals. They're pretty quick because they're YA, and yeah, I think that they're solid. It's basically Criminal Minds plus YA is the premise. So that is most of my contemporary recommendations. Oh, and one other series I would recommend for contemporary mysteries. This is the one I would recommend if the person you're buying for is sort of more in the literary fiction in that area, and that is the Irish Murder Squad, I think is what it's called, series from Tana French. I read the first one, which is, oh goodness, I don't remember the title of it off the top of my head. I'll put it in here. But it's very nice, like beautifully written, basically, and they're interesting mysteries, like very not your typical mystery, basically. So definitely recommend that as well. Okay, and finally, my last category of mysteries are more kind of historical mysteries. Two of them are sort of like based in history, and two of them are around historical events. So the two that are like set in history that I want to recommend, one is The Beekeeper's Apprentice by Laurie R. King. I actually haven't finished reading this yet, but it is essentially like a retelling of Sherlock Holmes, and I like it enough that I feel comfortable recommending it, especially because this series has been recommended to me many, many times. And then the other one that I would recommend are just books by Matthew Pearl. I think the Dante Club, or the Club Dante, the Dante Club, I think is his biggest one. But those are historically set. And then in terms of two that are kind of based in history, one is the Club Dumas by Arturo Perez Reverte. And actually I've read several of his. The Flanders Panel was good. These are fun if you kind of are a history / book nerd. They're good. And then finally, the other one I want to recommend is The Historian by, I believe it's Elizabeth Kosovia, something like that. Kostovia, I forget. That's a really, really good book, and it's based on like the Dracula myth, and it's good. Whew. Oh my gosh, guys, that was epic. That was a lot. I think I've been recording for more than an hour at this point. Please have pity on me, because I'm also going to put all of the books that I mentioned in the description box below, or I'm going to do my level best to accomplish that. If I don't, I apologize. But that is a lot of what I would recommend for mom or for dad to read. I hope that this has been helpful. I think sometimes it can just be helpful to hear books that other people have read. And like I said, I wanted to put something out that isn't just pushing a bunch of front list titles on you, because I think that's a lot of what year-end recommendations end up focusing on. The beauty of books is that they date, I guess, to some degree, but like, most of my TBR are not new releases, and I think that there's so many books that get overlooked every year that there's plenty of room to go back a little bit and look at past books that have been released that are just really, really good. So hopefully this is a little bit of a different take. I hope that if you are trying to buy a book for your mom and dad, that this is helpful. having said all of what I just said, this whole video, if you have ideas about the types of books that you think are appropriate for mom or dad, definitely leave a comment below letting me know kind of ideas of what you buy for your mom or for dad. I've already bought, I think, all the books that I'm going to buy for them this year, but I always love getting ideas, and I keep like a little Amazon list of books that I'm like, ooh, that would work for this person, or that would work for that person. So I always am looking for more recommendations. If you enjoyed this video, and I really hope you did because it's been a lot of work, but if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information in the description box below, and I think that will do it. Happy Black Friday. You know, may the odds ever be in your favor. Don't get trampled trying to buy a TV. Life is not worth it. But, you know, enjoy the sales that are coming up. Part of why I wanted to do this today was the fact that there's probably about to be a bunch of ebook sales over the next 4 or 5 days, so, or just general book sales. So I hope that you guys get a chance to take advantage of that. And I think that will do it. I will just talk to you guys later. Bye!